Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. As you might know from previous videos, I've just recently started collecting Pokemon cards again, and I've opened a bunch of booster packs and I've got a bunch of cards, but I don't know what to do with them. I want to find out how to make a deck and how I can get into battling and stuff like that. I know Worlds was last night and there was a tournament on where you could get a promo card, but because I wasn't prepared and I didn't have a deck or anything like that, I couldn't get it. So today I'm going to go to my local card shop and I'm going to see if I can get a bit of advice on how to set up a deck and how to get involved. So unfortunately there were a few kids and stuff like that around playing matches, etc. And I didn't really feel comfortable filming around the shop while that was kind of going on without permission for the kids' parents and stuff like that. But I just want to kind of talk about the experience that I had in the shop, how they kind of guided me through playing, and what that was like as a new player. So first of all, I went into the shop and the owner was there, Ryan. He was really friendly, really kind of inviting, and explained to me, I've just started back with a hobby. I've been playing Pocket for a while, so I kind of know the mechanics of Pocket, but I know that it's a bit different and the actual TCG. So the first thing he kind of said was like, you're obviously a little bit older than a lot of the kids that are coming in that are maybe learning on the basic starter decks, and they had like a Pokemon Academy kind of box that had like basic battle decks and starter decks and stuff like that in it. He said kind of, because you're a bit older, maybe get into a bit more of the actual ins and outs of how some of the kind of meta decks work and stuff like that. So he set me up with a Ethan's deck, which was based around Ethan's Typhlosion and Ethan's Adventure. Basically the Ethan's Adventure card allows you to draw more cards out of your deck, the cards that you need to run the Typhlosion, and the Typhlosion does more damage based on how many of those Ethan's Adventure cards you've used. So the kind of process there is to be pulling the Ethan's Adventure cards, using those to pull more Pokemon and energies, which can then be used to support the Typhlosion and the other Ethan's Fire Pokemon cards that are in the deck. And he was set up with kind of Nidoking, Team Rocket, a sort of deck as well. Obviously because I wasn't playing that deck, I didn't really quite get as much of the ins and outs as I did playing with the Ethan's deck. But he was really good with me. He kind of took me through each step, starting out with the 60 cards in the deck rather than 30. You've got 6 prize cards rather than the 3-point counters that you have in Pocket. Similar rules that do apply, like you can't evolve first turn, you can't play supporters first turn, you can't attack first turn, and a lot of it seemed to be kind of around kind of drawing the energy out of your deck, because that's the difference as well. Is in Pocket you kind of just get energy as each turn comes along, and you can use that to put the energy on each Pokemon. But in the trading card game, you actually need to draw the energy out of your deck and get it into your hand and play it as a card, and you can only do that once per turn unless you've got like a Pokemon like Ethan's Ho-Oh, which allows you to add more than one, add extra energy onto different Pokemon in your turn. So once I kind of figured out the strategy of the deck, it was quite cool. I was kind of looping around Ethan's Adventure, pulling out my Typhlosions and my Quillavas, using Quillava's ability to get more Ethan's Adventure, and there was an Ethan's Ho in there that helped me put on energy onto the Pokemon that I needed it on. And I've done quite well. I actually won my first 2 games against Ryan, although he was pretty much coaching me the full time and telling me step by step what the best kind of plays were. So I beat him a couple of times, and then what ended up happening is I was playing he asked one of the kids that was there, that he's been playing for like 3 years or something like that, to give me a match as well, and that was a little bit different. I actually won the first match against him. I think his deck that he was using wasn't a good matchup against the one I had, but then he swapped a deck that was a bit of a counter against Ethan's Typhlosion, and he managed to beat me. So 3 wins out of 4 matches on my first time ever battling. I think that's actually not too bad, although it probably is a little bit beginner's luck, and maybe I'm just lucky that Ryan's gave me a pretty strong deck to start out with. So it's been pretty kind of fun just going through, learning how to battle it and going through my first few battles. And I think my next step was obviously kind of trying to get a deck together, and I was talking to Ryan about that. Because I've just bought a bunch of booster packs. I've got a lot of different random cards. I don't know what's useful. He kind of walked me through the process. Basically, you're going to need to try and design a deck around a particular card, like Ethan's Typhlosion or something like that, and then it's just building a deck around that game mechanic. And obviously same in Pocket. There's different mechanics that have been added, like the rare candies that have then adapted what cards you want to build into a deck. It's kind of like the same. It's finding out what few mechanics you want to use within the TCG and then building your deck around that. So I think my next kind of goal is going to be to find out what kind of deck do I want to build. You know, I don't know if there's different kind of strategies, like there's like high tempo and slow tempo decks. So like stall decks like there is in Pocket as well. I'd imagine so, but it's just finding out what mechanics are available, you know, in the current standard format as well. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to that at the moment. Once I've done that, I can use singles to build out the deck that I need, and I can, you know, can buy the singles fairly cheaply rather than just buying loads of boosters and stuff like that. And that can get me into the battling side of it, and I can just use the boosters can be more about the collecting side of it. Because I still want to be a collector as well. You know, I'm interested in the battling because I think that's where the community aspect of it comes in, and meeting other people that are like-minded, that are into the same hobby. I'd imagine, you know, lots of trading going on at different tournament events and stuff like that as well. So I really want that aspect. I don't want this to be a hobby that I'm just sitting down at home by myself and putting all my cards into a binder and then putting it on the shelf and not worrying and, you know, not engaging with other people about it. It's like even fun today, you know, having a couple of games against an adult, even a couple of games against a kid, and just kind of taking part in that community. And that's one of the things that actually interests me about Pokemon cards, is that community aspect to it, and getting to meet other people that are like-minded, that are geeky like me. And you know, you've got to engage with people to trade the cards, to get all the cards that you need. It's not, you can't just open loads and loads of booster packs and eventually have everything. Now you probably could, but I'd imagine it'd cost you a fair bit to do that. It reminds me of another game that I played, World of Warcraft, which at the time when it first came out, it was one of the first like massively multiplayer online games that were so popular. And I remember being a young guy and speaking to people from all over the world. Before social media and all these different things, and you had to interact with other people. You had to, you know, find a blacksmith to craft a set of armour for you and things like that. And if you had a bad reputation, that could impact your ability to get this, you know, the materials that you wanted and stuff like that. And so, like, likewise, I think in Pokemon, there's an element there of being, you know, a good member of the community and helping other people out to get started, like people have done for me today, and you know, helping kids get interested in it as well. Obviously, Pokemon originally came out back in the, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of us that grew up with it are now older, but there's a new generation of kids coming through as well that, you know, their first Pokemon games might be Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet. So, you know, they might never have played Pokemon Blue and Red. So it's you know, it's just interesting that there's this entire community social aspect to this hobby that I just want to get engaged in as well. So I had a great time today, just playing my first few matches, dipping my toes in the water and just finding out more about the actual game behind the TCG, and not just the collecting side of it. I think my next plan of action is to get myself a deck together so that I can go on and get involved in tournaments and matches and stuff like that on a regular basis, and just ingrain myself in the local card collecting community basically. While I was there in the shop, I've been carrying around my cards and all these different tins, all these little tins and stuff like that. It's not a great way, I can't see what I've got. They're a bit of a nightmare to open without sending cards flying everywhere. So while I was in there, I was talking like, what do I get? Do I get a binder? Do I get like a deck box? Something like that. And so at the moment they said, look, you know, you've not really got a collection that you want to display or anything like that. Maybe a binder's not really what to go for at the minute, just a deck box. So I picked up a couple of these deck boxes, the kind of Greninja Pokemon branded ones that I can keep my cards in, and it'll be a little better than keeping them in the tins. Also, what I was able to get while I was there was some top loaders, because I got sleeves before. If you remember from the last video, I got some sleeves at one of the other card shops, just to try and protect stuff. But they said that, see, for any of my full art ones, that I should really be keeping them in a top loader just to keep them protected, because there's a little bit more valuable. And I guess with it having the full art, you know, even a little bit of damage on that's going to be really going to affect its overall finish. So I'll be putting my full art cards into the top loaders, and I'll be putting everything into the deck boxes so that I can keep them good for future. And that was cheap enough. They were like £2 each, the deck boxes, and £2 for a bunch of top loaders as well. So pretty cheap, to be honest. So yeah, just a great day, playing my first few matches and having fun doing that. picked up a few bits and bobs that I'll probably need in the long run, like the top loaders and the deck boxes. And I've got that goal now to kind of have a look at what maybe some of the kind of current strategies are, Worlds is on at the moment, so yeah, maybe I can have a look at what those guys are doing, although when I'm watching that, it's all going so quick that I can't even keep track of what's going on. So yeah, just decide on a strategy that I want to use and then build a deck around that so that I can take part in more events and more matches and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time on the channel. I'm not sure what the next video is going to be, but I'll just try and keep things interesting for you and keep you up to date with my journey basically into becoming a Pokemon champion. Please like the video if you liked it, and add any comments, any questions you might have, any advice you might have for me at the start of this journey into Pokemon TCG. And please subscribe if you want to see more content from the channel. Thank you, bye.